Hey guys, so today I'm going to change the switches to a Philco mechanical keyboard, and I'm going to run through what you need to do it, how to take apart and put back the keyboard, the basics of soldering and desoldering, and how to change out the switches. Okay, so let's go over the equipment real fast. First you need something to take apart your keyboard, right here. This is a desoldering iron. You can also use soldering wick or a pump. But in this case, I found it easier to use one of these Radio Shack iron. It has a integrated solder sucker and also a tip to heat up the solder. Okay, you need a small pin right here. You need a semi-fine tip Phillips head screwdriver. This is a precision head flathead screwdriver that you need, and I'll tell you why later. A keycap remover, something to just shoot the desolder on. You also need a solder. This one I'm using is pretty good solder. It's Kester 44 in size 0.02 inches, I think. You don't want to use anything thicker because you won't get the amount of control you would with something thinner. So like this right here, you can see how much thicker it is. This is, I think, 0.06, and this is too big for the job. I wouldn't go anything bigger than 0.03 because then it would be too thick. These are pretty expensive, but you get a lot of it. I got it for about like $50, but you don't have to invest that much into it. Probably something cheaper would be fine. Then obviously you're gonna need a soldering iron right here. You also want to get something with a station that has temperature control. You really don't want to use something like this. This is like a $15 Radio Shack iron. I think it's just pure garbage. You won't even be able to use it for this because it'll just heat up the stuff too much. You can't control the temperature, and you don't get any accuracy with it. Okay. You also want a wet sponge. I don't actually use this a lot anymore. This right here is a Heiko brass sponge. It works the same way. Basically all you do is you just kind of poke at it like this, and it'll clean your tip. This wet sponge here would be fine, but I'm not using it because it can give a temperature shock to your tip, and it can lower the temperatures. Okay, I think that's about it. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, first thing you're gonna want to do is just take apart all your keycaps so they don't get in the way. Okay, now these ones, they have modifiers. If you don't know how to take it out, I'll just show you real quick. Okay, just pop it up, push it out a little bit, and then you want to pull out one side first. Okay, and the other side just slides out. Okay, so push it out, slide up one side, and then pull it out. Okay. Alright, next, flip it over, and there's one screw that you're gonna have to take out right here. Okay. Okay, next there's gonna be 4 tabs on the top and the bottom. It's gonna be about right here, 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 and here. What you're gonna want to do is first pry off the top case and the bottom. Just get something in there to hold the place, and then I'm gonna use a credit card to just slide through and pop off the little tabs. And while you're doing this, put some slight pressure from underneath and push up so that you can help separate the top case and the bottom case. Okay, it's off. Okay, so next, flip it around. And the top just comes right off. Okay. Then use the screwdrivers. There will be 2 screws right here. Okay. These stabilizers, you can leave the clip on and these metal wire because you don't need to take them off. Okay, when you take it off, this cable comes right off, so just be careful. Okay. Alright, now the next step is to desolder. Okay, so for this one, I think I'll have to switch to my webcam because my camera only gives me 10 minutes to record. Okay, next we're gonna have to desolder all these switches, but before we do that, there's this detachable cable that gets in the way, so you're actually gonna have to take it off, so it just makes it easier to work with. There's actually little clips here that you can't get into. Even if you use this really small screwdriver right here, you won't be able to get in there to poke it out. So what I have to use is this little pin right here. First time I did this took me quite a while, but now it shouldn't be that bad. First, there's this 2 little here. Actually, let me zoom in. Okay, there's these 2 little slits right here and here. What you're gonna have to do is poke the pin in and kind of push it out. So while you do this, gently tug on the side that you're pushing out. You have to use the pin, don't just yank the wire out because that'll rip the wires out of the little pins. Okay. Now on the other side. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the pin in and I'm pulling it out this way with the pin. Kind of hard to do it and not cover the... I'm at a bad angle right now. When you pull it, you don't ever want to grab the wire. Okay, so it should be loose enough where you can just kind of pull it out like that. Right? Alright, now flip it around and take out the controller. For this, you can just use your hand to gently pull up on it. Okay. Okay, so let's get to desoldering. Okay, so where are we gonna start? Okay, you can see all these solder joints right here, but you're not gonna desolder all of them because most of these are actually for diodes, and they're bridge wires. So you don't have to desolder all those. You only have to desolder all the ones that has the little switch pins, and each switch has 2 pins. So let me get one just to show you. Okay, so here's a switch right here. You can see that every switch will have this. Will have this black plastic. Here, let me focus. Every switch will have every one of these black posts right here. That's how you can tell where the switches are. And if you look at a switch right here, you can see that it has 2 pins. One here. Let me get the camera focus. Okay. Well, you get the picture, but there's 2 pins right here, and right here. Okay. Here, I'll just manually focus it. Okay, there are 2 pins here and here. If you flip it around, if you flip this board around, you can see the orientation of the switches. Right here it shows that there's little these little round dots right here. Where is it? Okay, right here. These are for LEDs, but you can see that they're pointing down. So when the switches are in this direction, right here with the LEDs pointing down, the 2 top pins will be on the top. There's a few switches that are actually the LEDs are on the top, so then the pins will be like this on the bottom, but most of them will be on the top. So these pins, you can see they're about 45 degrees away from the switch right here. So that's what we're going to look for in the where the pins are on the switch, which we have to desolder. Okay, so let's flip the board back around. Okay, so for every single one of these black switches right here, the pins will be here, 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 and so on. Okay, hold on, the camera's at a bad angle. Let me just try to pick it up and put it right on top. Okay, let's see if I can hold it still. Okay, so there's a bunch of little solder joints. Okay, if you're looking at this one, you're gonna have to desolder this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and so on. You know, all these little ones right here you're not going to do, because these are either diodes or wire bridges. Right here, 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 here. Okay, so you're doing this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to plug in my desoldering iron right now, and it takes a few minutes for it to warm up. Okay, so how this is going to work is you find all those switch contact points, and you can see that this iron has a little hole right here, and this hole, let me focus. Okay, this hole right here, is where you're gonna put the pinpoint right inside. So you're gonna put it right in there, and it's gonna heat up all the solder around it. And when that happens, you're just gonna suck it up with the little bulb right here. You're gonna press it to suck it up. Okay. So let me just do a few, and then I'll zoom up on it. It's not fully warm yet. You know, this thing takes forever. Okay, so let me go over the motions again. Okay, first you're gonna press it and hold it. Press it down, hold it, and then put this tip right over the solder joint. And when it melts, then you release it right away. And what that does is it sucks up the solder. Okay, what I like to do is put it right over and put it kind of in a circular rocking motion like this, so it evenly warms up the sides. I found out that usually heats it up faster than just putting it over like this and waiting it for it to melt. Okay. Okay, sometimes when the joint is too small, what you can do is add a little bit of solder to it. Yeah, see, this is why Radio Shack iron sucks, because it has temperature problems. There, finally. Can't see very well because this camera's in the way. Okay, so what I'm doing is after every few times that I suck it in, I'll blow it out on this paper. Here's what desoldered hole should look like. Yeah, this is gonna take me a long time. Trying to record it and do it at the same time. Okay, I'm almost done with all the desoldering, but there were a few things that I forgot to mention. First, the orientation of the switch pins of the right Alt and the Windows key is upside down. So let me just turn this around for the camera. Okay, so these two keys right here. And when I say the right side, that's when you're looking at the PCB. When you're installing the caps, it's going to be the left Alt and the Windows key. So these keys right here. Okay. Let me just get a close up. Okay, so the switch, normally they would be like this, where the pins are on the top side, right here and right here. But for those two keys, they're gonna look like this, when the pins are on the bottom, right here and right here. Okay, so it's going to be this pin, this pin, this pin, and this one. And you can see that they're on the bottom. There's also solder pads right here, here, and here, and here. Those are on the top side, but don't desolder those. Okay. Another thing I want to mention is that when you're using the desoldering iron or the wick, sometimes you won't suck up all the solder, and there will still be some solder remaining in the holes. So if this is the case, you won't be able to get the rest out because you can't heat it. So you'll actually have to add solder back to the joint and do it again. Let me show you an example. Let's see. Here, there's one right here that I couldn't quite get it all out. Okay. So it's this one. I don't know if it's gonna show up. But see, you can see that I sucked up all the solder on the top, and there's still some remaining in the hole, and there's just no way I can heat that to get the rest out. So you're gonna have to add solder to that, and I'm gonna do it right now. Okay. I'm actually gonna use the wick to show you how it works. So after you add the solder, you put the wick right over the solder joint, and you put the soldering iron right on top of it and press it down until it sucks up all the solder. Okay. I'll actually go over soldering when we get there. Right now I'm just gonna do it really fast so I can finish this part. Okay, so I'm gonna put the wick right over this solder joint right here, and then press the soldering iron right on top. I actually don't like using the wick because it takes a while, and sometimes it won't suck up everything. Yeah, see? It didn't get everything, so I'm gonna have to do it again. I'm just gonna use the desoldering iron. There. Okay, so let me just finish up the rest of the joint, and then I'll show you how to take it off. Okay, the desoldering is finished, and that allows us to take apart all the switches. But if for some reason if you want to take separate the PCB from the plate, there's 4 screws that you're gonna have to take off. Okay, it's gonna be right here, 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 and where's that last one? Right here. Okay, so if you wanna get to like the diodes for some reason, or just want to remove the PCB, those are the 4 screws that you're gonna have to take off. But for this case, you're not gonna have to do that, and we're just gonna remove the switches right now. Okay. So basically, how you're gonna do that is you take that screwdriver that flathead screwdriver that I showed you before, and there's little notches right here. Actually, let me get a sample switch and show you. Okay, these switches has little notches right here that you can push on, right here on both sides, and you're gonna need to push on those to remove it. Okay, so take your screw or a screwdriver and push on that tab and lift up. Okay, do the same thing for the other side. Okay, now you can just pull it out like that. Okay, if you see any bent pins, now's a good chance to unbend them, but these look pretty straight, so they should be fine. So after you take off all the switches, you can replace it with whatever other switch you want. But then for this case, I'm gonna do what's called an Ergo-Clear mod. You can't really buy that switch. Basically what it is it's a clear stem with a red spring, or you can actually also use a blue spring or a brown spring. They're about the same. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. If you just want to replace the switch to whatever you want, you just take your other switch and you just put it on like that. Okay, but we're not going to do that. I'm actually doing this for somebody else because he wants an Ergo-Clear. Okay, here's the guided switches, and let me show you how to do that. Okay. Alright, so to do that, what you do is you take your flathead screwdriver, and there will be 4 little tabs right here, 2 on this side and 2 on this side. What you're going to do is you're going to pry it out a little bit and pop it up. Kind of need 3 hands for it, but I think I can do it too. Okay, so pop it up, push it out just a little bit, but don't pry off too hard because you're gonna break the tabs. Just give it gentle pressure. And what I'm doing here is I'm just gonna put my nails in between the top and the bottom housing, so that it keeps the tab from it prevents the tab from popping back down. Okay, now do the same to the other side, like that. Separate them a little bit. Okay, now turn it over and do the same to the other side. Okay, now this should come right off. Be careful when you pull it out, because the spring can just pop out and it can just eject the spring. I mean the stem. Okay, so the top housing is off, and what we're going to do now is switch the stem with the red housing. So do the same for the red one. Okay, so I'm just taking this stem right here and I'm switching it over here. Okay, so when you put it in, these stems here, they have this little, alright, let me get the camera to focus. they have this little thing that sticks out right here. I don't know what it's called, but this part right here goes on the top. That part goes to the top where you see this contact point is, this metal contact point. So that side has to go up here, and there's little bars here that hold the stem in place when they go up and down. I don't know if you can see on the camera right here. Okay, so we're gonna put the little rails in that little groove right here, these rails. Right along here, okay? Kind of hard to do this because the camera's in my way. Okay. Now just put the top back on. When you put the top back on, the little holes for the LEDs go on the bottom. Okay, and you can just snap it back on. Like that. Okay. And then this just goes right back in here. Remember, the LEDs go on the bottom. And since the keyboard is backwards right now, they go on top. When you push it in, you can press the little two tabs to push them back in, or you can just pop them back in. But make sure the two pins here, they align with the two holes in the PCB. Okay, so that's one. I'm pretty much going to do all of them right now. So probably going to do that off camera, or I'm probably going to switch to the webcam to do this, because this camera only records for 10 minutes. What you can do is to save time is just pop off all the switch at the same time, like this. But then I'm only going to do 5 at a time, because if you take off all the switch, what you can also do is take off the PCB and then take off all the switch at the same time, but I'm just probably going to do 5 at a time. So that it's easier to put in the switch one at a time, so there won't be any alignment problems with the PCB later. Okay, so let me just get these off, and I'm just gonna let this camera run to 10 minutes, and when it shuts off, I'll switch to my webcam. A few things I forgot to mention. Just remember that the Alt and the Windows key on this side is inverted, so it's flipped around. Another thing that probably made it easier, I'm not sure how safe it is, but since I got really lazy at the end, this is what I did. You can also take off the switch. Instead of popping it like this, make it the focus. Okay, instead of popping it off like this, on both sides, hold on. Popping out like this. You can also just pry your screwdriver in here and then just lift it up, pop it out like that. Okay, so let me show you again. Stick the screwdriver in the middle, pry it out, and push it up. Okay, and then same thing for the other side, like that. And then just pull it apart. Okay. When I got lazy, I did that, but if you're not lazy, you can just pop it out this way. Okay, so if you're wondering why there are still some red switches, it's because these ones were too hard to get off, which means that there's still some solder stuck in the hole somewhere. So what we gotta do is desolder or add solder to all these switches right here, and then desolder it again. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do right now. Just gotta wait until my iron get hot. Okay, it's completely done. Now we gotta solder back the switches. I just finished switching all the clear stems with the red springs about a couple hours ago, and now we're on the soldering step, and I'm gonna go over that right now. Okay, so there are several techniques to soldering depending on what you're working with. There's SMD soldering, which is used to mount all these little small chips and capacitors to the PCB. I'm not gonna go over this because it's more advanced and it's harder to do. The only thing that we're going to be doing with this project is through hole soldering. That's all these little holes that you see in the PCB that the pins go through, and basically you solder the holes and the pins together to make a connection. Okay, so this station right here is a Weller WLC 100. I got it for about $45 off Amazon. It comes with a soldering iron and the base. Okay, I highly recommend you get something with a base because it has temperature control. Okay, that's important when you're dealing with electronics because some of these small chips right here, they're really delicate. So if you're always using maximum temperature like you would for like a Radio Shack iron, you could damage the components. So this thing right here is a temperature dial. You can control how hot you want the tip to be. For this project, probably around 3 would be good enough, because we're not soldering something really big. They're just really small joints. So that's the benefit of having this station here. You have temperature control and you get more accuracy with the temperatures. Okay, you also need a wet sponge, and by wet I don't mean you soak it wet with water. You just need it a little bit damp to clean all the oxidation off the tip. But I prefer using this Heiko brass sponge because it doesn't thermally shock the tip. So how it works is basically you just, when your tip is dirty or after every couple solder joints, you just poke at it like this, and then when you pull it out, it's nice and clean. Right now my tip is pretty clean because I always keep my tip in good condition, but when you get it fresh from the store, it's not going to be like this. It's going to be more dull. But basically how you clean it is it's basically called tinning. Okay, you tin your tip. I usually tin my tip every time before I start to solder, and when I'm done soldering and when I'm about to store this away, I tin it again. What that does is it cleans the tip and it prevents oxidation and it helps preserve your tip. Okay, so what you do, I don't know if you can see it. Okay, what you do is you take the solder and you just touch the tip, rotate it a little bit so it gets all the sides, and all the smoke you see is from the rosin. It's the flux burning, and you don't want to smell this because it's bad for you. Okay, after that you just poke at it like this and it's clean. Okay, you can see here that it's nice and shiny, and this is how you know it's clean. My tip is pretty broken in, but when you get it from the store, it's not going to be like this. It's nice and shiny. You also need some rosin core solder. The one I'm using, this one is the cheap Radio Shack one. I basically use it just to tin the tip. It's too thick for this project, but the one I use for almost everything is Kester 44. It's made of 63 and 37 lead and tin. It's also rosin core in size 0.02 inches. So you can see it right here. This whole roll was about 50 bucks. Not that cheap, but you know, you get a lot of it. Basically the rosin acts as a flux, which is used to clean the pins on the PCB, and it also helps the solder flow better. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to my webcam right now and actually show you the soldering process. Okay. Alright, I switched to my webcam so that I can get a close-up of the actual soldering job. Okay, let me clean the tip again real fast. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to hold the tip and touch the pad and the pin at the same time. Wait, which one is it focused on? This one here. Okay, so touch the pad and the pin with this tip, and then from the other side you're going to push in the solder, and you're going to touch the pin and the pad from the opposite side. You don't want to touch the tip with the solder, and then when it melts, you just transfer it on there. You don't want to do that, okay? You want to melt it on the actual pin from the opposite side of the tip. Okay, the tip I'm using right now is a chisel head base tip instead of a conical one because it's better at transferring heat. Let me just zoom in a little bit and actually start. Okay, Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. Here, actually, I'll just show you the size difference between the two solder that I'm using. Okay, this is the 0.2 or 0.02 size in diameter that I'm using compared to this Radio Shack one. You can see the size difference, how big it is. This Radio Shack one is about 0.06, and you can see that if I'm going to use this one, it's gonna deliver too much solder, and you don't get an accurate control. With this little one, I can control the how much I put in a lot better than this big one right here. Okay. Well, let me clean my tip again. It's good practice to constantly clean your tip. Okay. And this tip is a little big, but I'm not having trouble with it. If I had a smaller one, I'd have more accuracy and better temperature transfer, but this one we'll just have to do. Okay, so heat it up, the pad and the pin, and then melt the solder from the opposite side. See all the smoke coming out? You don't want to breathe it. Okay, so basically right now, I'm just doing this purposely to show you that right now it's not enough solder because it's not coming out of the hole yet. Okay, so basically when you know to stop is when you see the solder come out of the hole just a little bit, and this time I'll put too much to see what how it should look like when you put too much. Let me clean the tip again. Which one is it? Okay, this one. See, this is too much. You can see that popping up right now. Up as high as the pin. And I mean, it's not bad, but that just, you don't need that much, you know. Just enough so that the solder comes out of the hole so that you can see, but not this much. Okay, so I'll do the one right next to it in the amount that it needs. Okay, so heat up the pin and the pad from one side, and then feed the solder in from the other side. I mean, you really can't go wrong with this stuff. It's like super easy. Okay. The next one. Clean the tip again. You want to clean your tip about every 2 or 4 joints. I'm doing this slowly right now, so you can see. Let's see, which one is it? This one? Okay. Just heat it. Alright, actually I'll just show you what you shouldn't be doing, okay? You don't want to put solder on your tip like this and then try to transfer it over, because that's not very effective, you know. Because once the solder hits the tip, then the flux burns away, and then once you don't have the rosin and flux anymore, then the solder is really hard to flow, so then you won't be able to transfer it. Okay. Alright, that's all there is to it. Let me do one more close up, and then I'm going to zoom out and just do a bunch of them. Let's see, which one is it? Yeah, this one. Okay, let me zoom out so I can do it faster. Starting. Okay. Okay. Alright, let me reposition the webcam so I can do the rest. I'm just going to tin my tip again. It's good practice to tin your tip like every 15 minutes. So before you use the iron, after you use it, and about every 15 minutes during. Okay. Alright, it's done. Put this away. Now before I store my tip, I'm going to tin it again. Okay. Okay, so turn it off. There you go. Nice and shiny. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's all this little brown stuff. It's like brown burnt stuff on the board. That's the flux. We can clean that off with isopropyl alcohol or just alcohol wipes. But it really doesn't matter if you don't, because it doesn't affect anything. So I'm probably not gonna clean it too much. It's just gonna spread it. Yeah, I think it's fine. I'm not gonna clean it. Should be fine. The solder joints look nice and shiny. Whoa, actually, I forgot one. Let me double check this. I forgot one right here. Yep, it looks like just this one. And then I should probably fix up one of them. Where was it? It's just this one. All right. Now we can put it back together. Okay, so now I'm going to test if all the keys work. Put in the USB cable. Okay, this part I'll show you real fast. You put it in. This little ferrite bead right here, this little bulge right here, it's gonna go in here. It's gonna fit in here, okay? And then this little part of the shrink wrap right here, it's gonna fit in here. That little notch. And then this little part here, it's gonna fit right here. Right, so when you put it in, just make sure it goes where it should. Right, can you see it? Hard to do it backwards. Done. Okay. Now put the controller in. Okay, I'm gonna plug it in my laptop right now and just test it. Looks like all the keys work fine. Alright, let's screw it in. Putting back the two screws. Well, let me unplug it from my computer first. Alright. Pop the case back in. Okay, that was the last screw. Now just put on the keycaps. Alright, it's done. See how it feels. This Ergo-Clear feels a little different. Okay. Feels a little stiffer than browns, and it has a slight bump to it. A more defined bump than browns, but not clicky ones like blues. Yeah, it just feels very unique. Okay, there you go. There's the Ergo-Clear mod on a Philco. Okay, so if you guys have any questions about anything, just let me know. Alright, see ya.